Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness, dear colleagues, friends of peace, all of you. Yes, I represent my country proudly at the United Nations. It means that as an ambassador, I sit behind the Swedish nameplate around this famous horseshoe table in New York that makes up the Security Council. As you know, the Security Council is charged as the main world body to uphold international peace and security and to prevent wars and conflict. It has the mandate to allow military interventions or to impose very serious sanctions against, and that becomes binding, of all countries in the world. But I'm also a very normal, average guy from Skåne. I get stressed, I'm emotional, I get nervous, I have a short memory, I forget things, and I fail sometimes to understand the major connections between some of the world politics that takes place around me. And I wanted to reflect a little bit about the human nature, the importance of personal relations also in world politics. We started our tenure in the Security Council on the 1st of January after a tough campaign. And starting that, it just so happened that we were also the president, we were the chairman of the Security Council the first month as we entered, the month of January. And as we prepared for that, I have two very strong impressions and images in my mind. One was of a conversation I had had with a Nigerian ambassador. Her name was Joy. She told me how she had grown up and as a young girl, Russian warplanes had bombed her village. There was havoc and destruction all around her as she fled with her family. She was saved. She was more lucky than many others in her environment. And she said to me that she felt that there was some sort of a divine intervention here that saved her. And then that continued to intervene and to made her one day become her country's representative in the UN and in the Security Council. And she felt that there was somehow a destiny, much higher than just representing your own country, to sit around that table, that you had to take charge and make sure, in her words, to ensure that every day around that Security Council, in that Security Council, you have to make sure that the girls who grow up, in her case, Nigeria today, shouldn't have to suffer what she had suffered. The other image I had is the complete reversal, the complete opposite. I had, as an observer, before we entered the Security Council, been sitting around observing the Council as it debated Syria. The grandstanding of some of the permanent members, the personal insults among ambassadors thrown at each other around this table. Of course, I'm sure, making someone back in Washington or London or Moscow happy about how they performed, how they presented their nation's instructions in that particular case, but also, of course, ensuring that the Security Council was paralyzed. And I'm sure to the great disillusionment of the people, in this case of Syria. And many of those who observed this, greatly disillusioned about the Security Council. So those two images were very much on my mind as we prepared for taking up our seat. And we felt that if this is the working climate in this council, where is all this about taking a bigger responsibility, making sure that we protect the dignity of mankind and preventing the world from the scourge of war? Now, the way this works is that the first day, as you enter as chairman of the Security Council, you invite all your 14 colleagues, the 14 ambassadors, to a breakfast meeting, very informally, to set out the work for the month to come. And as I did that, I very much recalled the story of Joy and what I had seen, how things really worked. And I just tried to recall and remind my colleagues around this table that we do have a bigger responsibility than just making sure that we protect our national interests, that we have to protect the credibility of this organization, that we have to try to make a difference on the ground. and that we have to listen to each other respectfully and not throw insults at each other, and that actually what we do is much more important to the people in Juba, Aleppo, or Kinshasa than to the people of London, Stockholm, or Washington or Moscow. And that we need to listen to the voices, the real voices out there in the world. So, as we took on the first month, and you know, I'm sure I'm not attentive and intelligent enough to pay attention to all the back talk that is going about us, and maybe I'm naive, but I do have a sense that we were actually able to make a little bit of a difference that first month, because of this plea to everyone to pay attention to the respectfulness of our deliberations. And I have a sense that also the bigger countries realize that sometimes a country like Sweden can play a little bit of a bridge. And we felt very often that when we wanted the Security Council to come out with results, that there should be something, we shouldn't just discuss things, we should also be able to communicate some sort of unity afterwards. When we put forward such proposals from the chair, the fact that it came from Sweden, it helped. Had it been from the United Kingdom or from Russia, I'm sure that the other one would have blocked it. And I think they have gradually understood that actually there is a space also for the smaller countries on that Security Council. And we also made a great point about bringing in the voices from the outside, the kind of people that Joy was talking about. So we've had a woman talking to us from Somalia about the need for much better women participation in the politics of her country, which, by the way, is true for all countries. We've had a young woman talking to us via video link from the northeastern parts of Nigeria about the terrible things that Boko Haram is doing and the suffering of all the people in that part of the world. So I think that we've had shown that there is the possibility of activists, of passion also in that body. And I think it's very important too that countries like Sweden stand up for civil society, because we see that the role of civil society is very much shrinking in parts of the world. And that is not just a question of solidarity with civil society, with youth or women. It's also based on empirical fact that we know that countries that are not treating their women or their youth or plurality the way they should is already an indicator of troubles to come ahead. Now, are we happy with where we are? Well, I think there's always a risk in my trade, and maybe in some of yours, that you are happy just because you've survived a meeting, you presented your intervention in a good way, you sort of survived that day's various challenges. But we cannot rest until we see that what we do, what the Security Council does, actually makes a difference on the ground, that it improves the lives of people. And there, I just wanted to end by sharing this dream that maybe one day, 10 years from now, I hope I'll have some grandchildren. And I can see this picture, this image again, how one of my grandchildren approaches me and says, "Is it true that the year 2017, children were suffering, were starving, running away from wars, all caused by grown-ups?" And that I could say, yes, that happened in 2017, but it doesn't happen anymore, and it will never happen again. Thank you very much.